Hi, I'm Linda Deir, the author of Guided. Her spirit guide angels were her best friends and life coaches. Guided is my true life story and winner of the 2017 International Body, Mind, Spirit Book Award. Since before I was 2 years old, I've seen, communicated with, and even photographed my spirit guide angels. In Guided, I use my own life as a template to teach you what I learned from these loving, intelligent spirits. Most importantly, I show you how to make the connection to your own spirit guides and angels so you can live a guided life, a life free of fear and doubt, the life you intended to live before you got here. In my guided journey, the companion journal to Guided, Part 2, page 18, I will talk about you are not alone. You know you are not alone. We are always with you on your guided journey. You have come full circle and remember us. You know when it's you and when it's us. Now that your point of contact to us has been restored, together we can accomplish what you came here to do in this lifetime. So let's get started. After all the confusion and searching for what was missing in your life, you have found peace in the fact that you are never alone. You know that when you slow down and listen to what's really going on, you always get your answers. These answers are not someone else's answers or only what your ego wanted you to believe. Your journey back to where all the confusion started made acknowledging the truth critical to your life going forward. This required that you saw what happened back there from an objective point of view and write those facts into your journal. This is the only way you will be able to see what actually happened, and not from the perspective of that hurt, helpless child who first encountered it. This is how you learned, sometimes the hard way, to accept people for what and who they really are, from the truth. This was not easy, because the truth will not let you make things up just to feel better about them. Pretending is no longer a filter you needed or could tolerate for the sake of blending in with everyone else. The payoff is that you have found peace in this higher awareness and acceptance. You see everything, even yourself, for what it is and not from something that you made up. In mastering this, you have learned to appreciate your time alone rather than being haunted by it. Your journal writing really is your best friend. Unlike before you had this higher awareness, you are now intrigued about everything you do. In fact, the things you do now are driven from the urge to do them. Your love for your work is more important than the money. Everything you do has meaning, and the byproduct is that it makes the world a better place. Since you stepped into this greater awareness, you spend more time working on your projects than when you just worked at a job to get paid. Your entire life has been transformed because now you are connected. You are connected to your real self, your higher self, and your guides. You are now true to yourself in everything you do. Life is juicy because you have revived those gifts and talents you brought with you on that very first day. To maintain your momentum, review page 1 through 18 in part 2 of this journal whenever you feel you are losing your way or getting stuck. This is where referring back to what happened in your early life will continue to keep you connected now. Connected to your spirit guides and angels and your higher self. So your earthly self is reminded about who you are and why you are here. Each one of these pages in part 2 have an associated supporting video to get you into the right mental state, a state of clarity, so you can write the truth about what happened in each phase of your early life. These videos will prevent you from telling it from an emotional victim mentality. Doing that will just keep you where you are and not allow you to live the life you intended, the one your soul never forgot and is relentless about seeing you accomplish what you came here to do this time around. With this solid foundation established in part 2, the journal writing in part 3 is where you will document your journey going forward with the same clarity you shifted yourself into by watching the supportive videos in part 2. As you apply this clarity to your journal writing, your connection to your spirit guides, angels, and your higher self will get stronger. This journal writing is your lifeline to keeping this connection intact, where you are never alone and always being guided. We exist and are with you every step of the way on your journey. Hi, Ray.
Hi, Linda.
Ray asked the questions. Ray interviews me each time we do one of these videos.
I like to interview you.
He's good. And starting from the top down about, really getting into this subject matter so you guys can grasp this and get your head around it and perform on each one of these pages, page 1 through 18. We're on page 18 today. You are never alone, okay? And he gets in there so that you guys can really, from your perspective, he'd ask the question that you may ask if you were to ask it. So it's going to give.
It's like I'm reading their minds.
You're good at it, Ray. So Ray, what do you have?
Let's see here. Let's start right off at the beginning with our title. You are not alone, and people know they're not alone. Now you knew from the time you were little, before you were 2, that you realized you weren't alone. But most people, they have an inkling somewhere along the way that they're not alone. But how long does it take them to realize that when they're little?
You know it right away.
Do they? Right away?
Yeah. You may not remember that you knew that from the very beginning, but you knew that. You came in with that.
Okay.
You weren't separate. That's why you knew that. When you first come here, you're not separate from where you came from, just because you're here. You don't become separate until you start really integrating in this life, and people in this life expect more of you instead of just serving you, taking care of you, and just thinking you're cute. Okay. It's
So babies come in connected. They know that they're not alone, but
they never question it.
right. And then they get to around 3 or 4 years old, and people tell them no, they don't have invisible friends, and
Well,
you're
they don't
making it all up.
Yeah, they don't just do that, but they throw a lot of things at you when you're little, and you kind of go, what? You can't believe sometimes that they just asked that question or said that to you. And only when that happens, when the people who were here before you that forgot that they were connected, forgot where they did come from, do they impose that single-minded intention on you and expect you just to sober up and just be in this world like they are, because they don't even remember what they forgot. Yeah.
And by the time you get older, sometimes people can't remember much before the age of 3 or 4.
Yeah, and that's where the journal, actually, that's where reading my book Guided, or you can listen to it or read it from Amazon, but getting guided first, because this is how I did it, all right? And it tells the truth about how I actually did it, what it really involved, about what it took to achieve it. It wasn't always blue skies, you guys. I mean, if you're going to be who you are and you're going to follow your truth and you're going to lead a life out of intention and the one you intended to live before you got here with the help of your guidance, okay, and having that connection, you're going to be different. So, you know, that there's going to be, there, and we talked about that in the early videos. Watch those early videos.
Yeah, we're kind of at the end. We're at the 18, page 18 out of 18.
Right.
And we've covered all those starting with page 1, fear. So I kind of like to look at the journal as a roadmap.
It is.
A roadmap that goes backwards. So most people look at a roadmap before they start. But this is a roadmap that where you are now, where you've ended up, and you need to go back. This is like somebody who says, well, I'm going to walk from the East Coast to California, to the West Coast, and they just start out walking. They don't look at a map. They don't do anything. They just start walking which way they think is west.
Right, right.
Okay? And they end up in Mexico or Canada. And they wonder, where did I go wrong? Where did I get off course? Right? So if they went back to where they started, or using the journal, My Guided Journey, they would see exactly where they veered off.
That's right. Now, Ray's using that as an analogy to give you an idea. But another thing about My Guided Journey, part 2, page 1 through 18, and like Ray said, we're on 18 today. A lot of people who have been working with this journal said to me, it's hard for me to start with page 1. Page 1, you start out at the youngest part of your life, and it starts with the theme of fear. Okay, so fear is the biggest one. It's the first one that threw you a curve, and from then on, you've been kind of, trying to dodge that whatever could happen from that fear of that fear. All right, so what I've recommended to them is start somewhere in maybe page 10 of 1 through 18, or maybe even page 18, and move back all the way to 1. But watch the associated video on lindadeir.com. Go up to the blog, and when you get to the blog page on the right side, under categories, click on My Guided Journey. That whole category is dedicated just to page 1 through 18 to get you guys there, all right? So be sure to watch the video that's associated with each one of those pages, like I said in the early part of this video, so you can wrap your head around it and align with the energy you need to be connected to before you start documenting what happened at that time in your life, in your journal, wherever you're writing, so you can tell it from the right frame of mind and not from being a victim or emotional energy, because that's just repeating what you've done in the past. It's what got you nowhere since then and kept you making decisions that are less than favorable now, all right? Until you clear that out, will you become who you are, which is amazing. And when you're coming from that, you'll have the answers, you'll get it, you'll be rolling, all right? You'll be strong. You will be you.
That's right. Okay, so if you don't go back to where you started, a lot of people don't do that. I mean, people go to therapy if they know they're stuck, but the therapy never takes them back to where they started. They go back to maybe their childhood and say, your mother wasn't nice to you, your mother didn't love you, your father didn't love you.
This is completely, I'm just going to, I know where, and you know where Ray's going with this. It's been the MO of mankind, okay, when you go to therapy. This is not therapy. This is more like coaching, okay? Guided. Her spirit guide angels were her best friends and life coaches, okay? So what this is, My Guided Journey, is more like the coaching that gets you there. It reminds you, it triggers you, it wakes you back up. You get excited about it after a while. You're like, wow, I'm connecting with it. And you start having dreams about it at night to help you get there. And guess why that's happening? That's going to be happening because the easiest way for your spirit guide angels to get a hold of you and communicate with you in the beginning, when you're not used to it, is through your dreams. And that's how they'll do it. That's how they'll make that connection to you. So expect that. And when that happens, while you're writing out what went on in your early life in part 2, page 1 through 18, when you get those dreams, go to part 3 where the journaling starts and write in there what happened and date it so that you can, work with this whole dynamic to bring yourself back again. That's what's going to happen.
So writing it down does a couple things. It brings it all into this reality. You might have been living all your life in some other reality that you thought was one you fell into or one that you were encouraged to go along with.
It wasn't you.
It wasn't you. Okay, it was the ones your friends wanted you to be, your family wanted you to be. Society pushed you.
They pushed you into it.
Right, and that starts way back when you're little.
You forgot where it started. That's why this work in part 2 has to be done.
So you write it all down, going backwards step by step, or starting with page 1, and you start writing it all down, and it forces you, from my perspective, to acknowledge the truth.
Right.
Because relative to any other kinds of therapy, this is way different.
This is way advanced.
Right.
This is a higher form of learning. In guided, that's what I talk about. I learned from a higher way of learning from my guides, okay? I was raised by spirit guides. The family I was born into just thought they were raising me, but I knew different, and my guides knew different, and it was our best kept secret.
All right, so once you can write it down and bring it into reality and then acknowledge the truth as you're writing.
Right.
Tell
it from clarity.
It's not going to be easy. I mean, the truth is pretty right in your face a lot of times.
I'll tell you how easy this is going to be, you guys, as we wrap this up today. If it's difficult for you and you find it challenging, you've been lying to yourself a lot. All right? So you're going to get a whole heck of a lot out of this journal writing. If it's not so hard for you, if it's you hit those bumps where maybe at age 7, oh man, that was hard for me. Well, that was when you started to cover things up and pretend more. And that's when you're going to realize where it gets hard, that's when you started pretending more and started making stuff up. Because the reality of what was going on around you was beyond you. You didn't know how to deal with it. So you just went along with what everyone else was doing, the same mass consciousness everyone else abided by. And only until now are you going to see those places where, you caved in and you went along with that. Even then, when you did it, you're going to know when you're writing it, that's what you did. But when you write it down, as soon as you write it down, I'm telling you, you've healed it. But until you identify what it is and write it into your journal in whatever page it is, 1 through 18, and get really honest with it. No victim here, no emotional energy, just the truth and what you knew, what the truth is and what you know from where you came from, all right? That's the only thing that works in this. If you do anything less than that, your ego's writing it, not you.
Well, you just took the words out of my mouth, because once you write it down and you acknowledge the truth, you then understand that you are no longer a victim.
Yes, exactly. And you know what? Your ego that misbehaves, can never take that away from you again. When you write it in here and you've got it in here and it's there, all you have to do is go back to that page that you wrote it into, page 1 through 18, part 2, or whatever pages, or all of them, and go, my ego just tried to waylay me again, because it's so well developed that this is going to be your best defense against your ego taking over again and dominating your life and keeping you where you're at. All right?
Okay, so I think we've cleared that up. You talked about learning to accept things and people for what they are. Does that mean their flaws, their problems, their actions, their beliefs? Are you saying that maybe they just didn't know better when they went through all that, and you felt like you were a victim of what they did?
Clear up your question. Your question's not real clear.
Okay. Learning to accept things and people for what they are and who they are. Does that mean you have to accept their flaws, their problems, their actions?
Here's what you have to do. It's not that let's say somebody that you have in your life their behavior is unacceptable. Once you start writing it out and telling the truth from your early life, only to find out why you kept picking those same people. And you couldn't stop it for the life of you. And you didn't know why you kept doing it. Well, when you start to reveal what happened back there, identify it and document it and put it in this journal, and then look at it like this objectively, okay? You're going to start waking up. You're going to start healing this. It's going to happen by itself, just by the fact that you've identified it and brought it from the ethers out there into this world. And for the first time in your life, the way that you have identified it and explained it did not come from being a victim from emotion, okay? It came from the truth and from what you know is the truth, all right? From where you came from. This is the world you came from, and this is the world you're in right now, all right? They're different, but you've got to activate this one so that you can bring these together and start making sense of your life and do what you came here to do. So when you start to identify this, you see the people in your life just like you see your own life. You're going to write this stuff in there, and you're going to write it in there, and then you're going to go, oh, well, the people in your life, you're going to do this. The same thing's going to happen. You're going to have a realization. You're going to look at these people through new glasses, through clarity, through the truth. Once you start with the truth, it doesn't stop here. This is your life, all right? So everything you see is now, it's like the tide went out, and you don't see the people who that aren't wearing clothes until the tide goes out, right? And the tide goes out, and there's all the naked people. Well, there they are. There they are, just like they are. And that is what they are, and that's all that they are. And you look at that and go, well, you know what? Some of them don't fit in my life anymore. Now, that's called consequences. In some of these earlier videos, we get into the consequences and how you have to be able to face those consequences in order to move through this and get yourself back and get around to living the life you intended. Not living a life of compromise where in your final days you leave in regret. You guys, that's not why you came here. You got to come back and do it again, please. Get it. Come here. You came here to live your life. So don't miss it. That's the whole point to this. And so some of the consequences are going to be the people in your life. You're not going to be mean to them, okay? You're just going to be, in fact, what I did, and I talked about this in earlier videos, I let them tell me it was over. I let them be done with the relationship. I let them call it quits. Because, I just felt like, how could I say anything to them? It would only hurt their feelings. And I wouldn't be effective in helping them in any way by saying whatever I was going to say to them, because they're not there yet. It's like talking Chinese to an Englishman. They're not going to get it. So you can't really, you got to handle it well, is what I'm trying to say, because they don't know any different. So it's not about being cruel to them or mean to them or just dumping them. Find a way to do it that feels right to you. So that will come up. It will happen.
So it wasn't you all along, was it? People think it was them. What did they do wrong? Especially little kids. Why are they doing this to me? Why are they punishing me? Why are they? Well,
the little kid. See, here's another flaw with the little kid, because the little kid comes in so pure. That's you. You came in pure, and you want everything to work out. The little kid has the best. They're the most optimistic people on the planet. They see everything in its light. They don't see any darkness at all. So they just want everyone to get along and everything to work out. And you paid a price. The more that you wanted that, the more that you allowed yourself to get pushed around because you wanted to keep the peace. You wanted your mom and dad to stay together. You wanted everyone to get along. You didn't want anyone to talk bad about Uncle Richard or Aunt Betty or whatever. You loved everybody. Well, when you did that, you were a setup for disappointment, in this world at least. All right.
But you also can't make excuses for them.
Not anymore, Ray.
Right.
Not anymore. But how did it all get started? When you start writing in your journal in the early part of your life, you're going to realize what I'm talking about. That sweet little innocent, pure child of you came in and got waylaid. It didn't know. When it found itself in this life, and all these people were going, all this weird stuff was going, chaos and drama and emotions, and all this stuff was going on. You forgot about who you were. You were like, oh, how do I manage this? How do I get around, all these people? And what do I do? You didn't know what to do. You really were at a disadvantage. And yet you were pressured to make decisions at that early in your life that affected your whole life. That until you write them in here and tell it to yourself, no one's going to see this, and tell it to yourself the way it happened, are you really ever going to be able to get around to the life that you intended to live?
All right, we got some good questions here.
Okay, we do.
Sandra Leggins.
Sandra, it's a pleasure.
Hi, Sandra. All right, she has a couple questions. So if every person is guided, right? If they are a negative person, then it's not them because they aren't connected. Is that what that means?
If they're negative, okay. I know. Okay, let's say this for example. I'm guided.
So this is like a two-part question. So
okay, but okay.
Is a negative person not connected?
Okay.
Or don't realize that they're connected? And can they change once they become connected and more aware?
Okay. I'm going to talk. The best experience I have to share with any of you is my own experiences, and I wrote Guided, so I'm an authority on this. I have lived my whole life connected to these guides in myself and knowing who I was, and living a life where I was true to myself and everything that went along with it, And there were times when I would get angry, especially before I turned 30. I had, from that early childhood I had that was really hard, I beat the bullies up at school, okay, when I was a little kid. Because my mom beat me up all the time, and she was a bully, right? So I was, at school, it was the only place I had the power to make a change, to help someone else, okay? To stop this plight, this bully, So you might say I was negative because I was angry when I did that to balance the scales, if you want to say that. But I was connected. So it's not that if you're angry, if you have negative energy in you of any kind, that you're not connected. I was connected, but I did have that one edge against me that it wore me out. My mom wouldn't stop. And I had to have some kind of a release valve. That's what I see now. So yeah, I'm more connected since the anger was over when I turned like 27 years old. That's when the anger, that my guides let me know. They said, your career in real estate will never be the same because, that's where you worked out your anger issues. So to the guides, they didn't see my real estate career as, wow, look at you, Linda. They looked at it like, oh, mission accomplished, let's move on. That served its purpose. And part of it was me working my anger issues out. But I was always connected, all right? So, no, that's not necessarily true.
I think people I agree, everybody's connected. And they, even if they don't believe in it, they really know in their gut that something else is going on.
They know either something else is going on, like Ray said, or they feel that something's missing.
Right.
It's the same thing, okay? Yeah.
All right. So, they just choose. They make a choice each day when they wake up. Are they going to be a negative, angry person with everybody they meet that day, or are they going to be a happy, positive person and try to be of service to other people? They're basically just of service to themselves. They're very selfish.
They definitely will cut themselves off from the source
Right.
when they're just working out of. See that the anger, it really does come from the ego. It does, and the ego is in there trying to prove a point. It's mad, and so it wants something to get right. But anytime the ego is involved, you kind of have to sit back and go, I get guidance, and I know I do, but I have to question whether it's coming from me or if it's coming from guidance, because my ego seems to be a little overzealous these days. You have to look at that.
Do you think people who operate from their ego really feel everything happens to them?
Yeah.
Rather than for them?
And what Ray is saying, translation, is they take it personally.
They take it personally, because really nothing ever happens to you.
No,
everything that happens in your life happens for you.
There's a purpose,
Right.
and it's the reason you came here and what you came here to resolve, Right.
Okay. Next part of Sandra's question, actually it's another question. How do we show our kids that they're not alone? That's a good question.
That's a really good question, and I'll tell you what, and you're going to love the early parts of we're going back into your childhood. And that's where your kids are right now, your child or your kids. And until you go back there and remember what happened, watch the associated video with each one of those pages to get yourself aligned with the right energy. You convey it as it happened, the truth, just like it happened. And when you can take that and look at that, a victim will take the information, if they write it down, from crying and being a victim and feeling sorry for themselves, and from the viewpoint of when it happened to them originally, they'll take that information and they'll just keep it right here, and they'll keep being a victim. Okay, I'm talking about writing it out like from somebody who's intelligent, because you see, the guides, this is intelligence, is what this is. They're intelligence. And when you become lined up with that intelligence by practicing it, by writing it out, by telling it like it happened, because you know what? They were with you the whole time it happened. They know. They are the BS detectors. They know if you're telling the truth or not, all right? And the more you tell the truth, the more you get in there and just say it like it happened, without being a victim, just exactly like it happened. And you may find that you were off track at the time, that you fed in to being a victim, maybe because it felt good, because it fit in, because you got pity from people or whatever, and it really didn't serve you. It made you weak, It didn't make you strong. It didn't connect you, okay? And that's what you know now. You know that you want to have that connection. Until you do it, you can't guide your child to do it. But once you do it, once you step into this and you walk through this and you nail it, Sandra, you are going to, you may even write stories for your child that reach in there and get them to come out, okay? Because it's safe, okay? You may write little stories that you read to them at night that are amazing, okay? Something will come out of this, something you never expected, for your child and for you. So your heart is good. Your heart is open. Your heart wants to help other people. It wants to see your child be the best it can be and be in one piece, not broken off and just being in this world and getting beat up in this world and knocked around and desperate because, oh my God, this is all I have. No, this is not all you have. You forgot who you are. And now when you bring these together, nobody can ever waylay you in this life again. Not your child, not you, nobody that you have an impact on, all right?
That was a good answer. I really resonated with that one. Okay, this kind of ties in with learning to accept things and people for who they are and accept the things they did.
You mean you as the one who's going through this?
Yeah,
That's
right.
that's
Looking
remembering.
back, by the time, by the time you go back here, and all this stuff happened to me when I was younger, as I was growing up, and now I could clearly see, since I'm writing it down, who these people were, why they did what they did.
Right.
And now we get into the big forgiveness thing.
Okay.
Okay? Now you're supposed to go back and forgive these people for what they did. But not really. They did what they did because of who they are, and now you understand who they are. You cannot forgive someone for being who they really are.
Right. They don't feel bad about it. If you forgive somebody for something they don't feel bad about, they'll look at you and go, you don't have to forgive me.
No.
I'm fine.
I didn't do anything wrong.
Exactly. It's yourself that you have to forgive. All right. That's a whole different subject. All right. But you are the only one. You're the one who bought into it. You're the one who let yourself be maneuvered and manipulated and whatever. Okay. If you watch the early videos on this, you'll see how this led up to this in page 18. You're the only one that allowed that to happen. You go back and you go, yeah, I see where I let that happen. I see where I bought into the schoolyard peer pressure. I see where I wanted to be the best musician in that one class, or I wanted to sing in the choir, but I wanted to be the lead. I wanted to, whatever the ego wanted, you'll recognize the ego and how the ego was driving this car, driving your life, and how it didn't serve you, and how it snowballed into a whole host of poor decisions later that get you to the point where you just go, stop this car. I am not going on this road anymore. I'm going to stop and I'm going to find out what's going on here. And I'm going to reevaluate my life. I'm going back there and tell the truth about what happened in a sobering way. And I'm getting down to brass tacks on this deal. I am done wasting my life. And if some of these consequences are that some of the people in my life will no longer be in my life because they were nothing more than a reflection of my confusion, then they'll have to go. That's it.
So basically, when you talk about forgiveness, you must forgive yourself for allowing those people to do what they did.
Right, right. And, you know, when you forgive yourself, you'll realize that you didn't know. You didn't even think that you could do it differently. You just felt so intimidated and pushed into these situations. You didn't have the information to think it through at that time like you do now. Okay, so that's the difference between now, huge difference between now and then, and why this is so doable. This page 1 through 18 in part 2, so doable now, all right? And get this turned around. You're going to be surprised.
So once you forgive yourself for allowing these people to do what they did to you, that's the point where you stop making things up. You know, you make things up, and they're basically excuses for these people.
Well, what they are is it was because you didn't know how to deal with the situation. You had to make things up. Okay, here, let me use an example. In Guided, my dad was my hero in this world. Otherwise, I didn't have any role models in this world. I really didn't. These were my role models, my spirit guides and angels. But my dad, I made him up. In reality, after I was done writing Guided and upon reflection, I realized that my dad, he didn't look out for me. He wasn't my hero. I made him up. Now, I was guided. I was really connected, and I still did that. That's why I know. See, that healed a lot of things in me. I won't go into all of it now. It hurt me a lot. Wow. But it healed me, you guys. And until I connected with that, I didn't really realize how important this was for you, all right? And all the fan mail and everybody that I've done coaching with and all, that Red Guided, and they want to learn how to do this. I know what it takes to do this. I wrote this book. I did it. This is the quickest way to do it. You don't have to go through all this, all right? You can go through it right here. You can get it right here. This will work.
Okay, so Sandra says, so once she's aligned and connected, does that mean she can also be a guide to her kids because they're a lot like her? Basically, she's going to be the example that most kids don't have.
Yeah, that's what you're going to be. You're going to give them guidance, but you are not their guide. Okay? Don't confuse those two things. You as a more qualified parent and loving person, okay? And real person. You're not just a mushy loving person, but you're a person who can get in there and help them face reality. That's really what's been missing in our world, Sandra. Is people, they're too much into the feel-good stuff, but they're not willing to get real about what's going on, so you can have it all, okay? Because it's not just in being in this world, but it's being in this world and pulling it together. And you will find that this world, the one you came from, it's two things. It's simple. It's two things. It comes from truth. I mean, it comes from a brutal honesty. It's truth. It just sees things for absolutely what they are. And that's what you need to learn to do, so you can teach this to your child without it devastating them. And love. I mean love. I don't mean being in love. I'm talking about love from the truth. Okay? A truthful love. It's so different than what we've been taught in this world. In this world, everything with love is conditional. It's all based on, if you do this for me and do that and you keep doing these things for me, I'm going to love you. But as soon as you don't do this anymore, I'm not loving you anymore. It's like a commodity. It's a condition. So, but where you come from, it's all there is. It's just truth and love. But it's the most brutal truth and the most brutal love. Okay? And that's what you get into. You get into stripping off all the drama and the trauma and the excuses and the victim and everything like that, and you just get to truth and love. And that's how you write this. And that's how you, by example, what Ray said, as a parent, you give them guidance, and you are an example. As your little child grows, you become more of an example to them. Even when they fight you, you are, and your response to their energy is the example that they will ultimately follow. It's a hard job. That's why getting it together and telling it like it is and getting yourself on solid footing, on a solid foundation, is critical to those times in your life when they throw you a curve. Whether it's your child, your mate, your coworkers, life. You're going to be steady and calm, and you're going to know when to back off and sleep on it. You're not going to be so hyped up and jacked up. You're going to have control over yourself. You're going to have mastered yourself.
And that's the main thing nowadays. Kids don't have role models.
I know.
All right, you mentioned the feel-good stuff. You must have been peeking at my notes here. The feel-good stuff. Okay, people go to seminars, retreats, presentations, the latest, to see the latest guru, the latest best-selling author, to see what they have to say, and they get all excited. And they get all wound up about changing and implementing something new into their life, and then they go home and they do nothing. They don't do anything. Why? Why do they keep seeking out one after another? I mean, some of them go for decades and they keep following the latest and greatest, but they don't do anything. That gets us around to doing the work. So why do they get all excited about changing? You know, who in the room wants change? Everybody's hand goes up, but then when you ask who wants to change, everybody's hand goes down.
So what Ray's saying is that I think that those things have a purpose. Like it's good to experience things just so you have a baseline, so you know that you're not missing anything. I just want to say that because what the guides will always tell you is the answers are not out there. They're right here. You brought them with you. You have them right here. It's like built-in GPS. It's built-in equipment. You're not lacking anything, okay? But if you just pay attention to what's going on in this world, it's filled with lack. And that's what you're talking about. They keep going back to get a little bit more gas in their gas tank, so to speak, as a metaphor. And they run out of gas by the end of the week, and they've got to go find another seminar to go to so they can get through another week. Well, why do you have to get through another week? It's like people who go on vacations, who live for vacations. They can't wait to go on the next vacation as soon as they get back from the vacation they were just on. Well, what are they running from? What kind of life are they leading that they keep needing to go on vacation? All right? Something is wrong in their life. And that's what it is. This is nothing more than a distraction. You know, that's what it is. That's what those are. But I have to say that when you go to them, at least you find these things out. And then you could scratch it off your list. It's like, here's a whole list of things that I know I don't want in my life. And I'm going to move those out of my life so they don't distract me. So I can get back to getting into my life, getting in there and finding out what's in there. It's already there. I just have to unearth that knowledge, that hidden knowledge that's been waiting for you to be ready. It's very subtle. It will never shout at you. In this world, it screams at you to get your attention. The world you came from is very subtle, but way more powerful. Okay, that's why bringing them together it's critical.
Yeah, you want to build a life that you don't need a vacation from.
Right, exactly
that
right.
You can't wait till the next day when you wake up and get back to doing what you love to do, and
right.
And you do well.
Well, you do it. Here's what happens. It may take you a little while because you have to practice to get perfect. But when you do it, it's going to be done on based on your standards. It's going to be, that's why it's going to be so special. That's why it is so special and so important that nobody else gets in there and messes it all up, okay? It's your baby. It's your baby. You have to go back to when it started, when you were a baby, and move from that. That's what happened here in Guided. That's how I tell Guided the story and how it all happened. And when I started remembering from 20 months old, okay? And even before that. And I remembered because I was so excited about my life. When I saw my guides the first time, when they showed up all around me, when I didn't even expect to wake back up into this world, when my mom beat me so badly, you know? And when I saw what they saw when they looked at me, and they looked at me, they just stood there calmly looking at me. They weren't upset about what my situation was, but they were there with me every step of the way, guiding me, giving me guidance. And when I saw what they saw, telepathically, I instantly remembered where I came from, and I saw what they saw. I saw myself. And from then on, I knew myself. I had a grip on myself so well that in this world, it could never beat me up. It could never have me like that. I was in one piece. So I had my strength. I had my inner guidance. I had guidance from my higher self. I had guidance from my guides and my angels. I had all that support working for me because I knew they were there. Okay? That's why. I knew where I came from. That one moment, it changed everything. And that's what you guys are doing. You guys are going to, that's the whole point in doing this. That's the connection that you will make by accident. You will make it like, oh, you'll be going through your life. Oh, it'll happen. One thing, it'll be like one epiphany after another. And then in part 3 of this journal, you will write down those epiphanies, those insights, those gut feelings, that knowingness, that insight you got, that it didn't come from you, it came through you. Write it into your part 3 of the journal and keep it going in chronological order and dated. That's going to be critical to your growth going forward. You guys are just getting on your way. The fun is just beginning. But do the work in part 2. It's got to be done there first so that you've got the foundation, the baseline to move from. Not the old one that you keep dragging along with you that's out of date and absolutely misinformed, okay? You were ill-equipped to make those decisions like that at 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old. You were pressured. You were around all these people and all their drama and trauma. And how the heck could you make a good decision even under the best of conditions? So you have some clearing up to do. And then from that new foundation, that new baseline, you guys, you're not going to believe it. It's going to happen fast.
Okay. We're at the end of part 2. 18 weeks went by pretty quickly.
It did, Ray.
So we're at part 3, the journaling part, where we can take everything that we've learned in part 2 and now start to apply it. And it's tuning in, right? It's getting quiet, tuning in, asking, right? And then listening. So can you go through that little process again? Ask for their help.
Okay, so, and I can't bring that one thing up, but what you're going to do, how to shorten this up. When now that we're done with page 18 of part 2, you're now moving into part 3. You can see my journal, I've been writing a lot in it, all right, for you guys. You're going to get into part 3, and this is the journaling part. And in this, you're just going to start writing in this whatever's coming through. Like I said earlier, the insights, the dream, wherever the guidance is coming through. All right. It might even come, is Sandra still with us?
I think so.
Okay, Sandra, it might even be somebody like your son says something like a one-liner to you and you go, what? You know? And you go, that was amazing. Write it in your journal. On the next page, you could print as many of these as you need to out. This is a ongoing printout that you'll do, so you have your pages populated, and you just keep going and going and keeping them in a journal so they don't get spewed around and get out of sequence. And so because you need to refer back to these, all right. And you take something like Ray was just talking about. Whatever comes through, it doesn't have to just be guidance. It could be like what you were just saying.
How you feel.
Yeah,
how you feel that day when you wake up.
Right. And when you wake up, if you don't remember the dream that happened that night, because everybody dreams, you just may not remember it. When you wake up in the morning, before you hop out of bed, just lay there for a moment and let yourself connect with the first thoughts that come into your mind. I'm not talking about call the babysitter because you have to go shopping that day. I'm talking about not this earthly stuff. Just what is it? What's the first thing that comes to mind that lingers from that night before, from that communication with the guides? Because your guides will use your dreams to reach you first, because it's the easiest way for them to reach you in the beginning. But as you develop this, as you keep moving through this and working with this, you're going to find that you get this intuition all the time. It's coming through because they're broadcasting to you 24/7 all the time. It's just that we miss it, okay? We're preoccupied, all this stuff's going on, and we lower our vibration when we get caught up in this world with all the distractions, rather than breathing and being at ease with what's happening and not letting all this stuff consume you and shift you out of this continuity that you have that keeps you in one piece, that keeps you connected to your guides, all right? You're going to learn how to do that. You're going to learn how to do that by continuing to journal what's going on in your life. And it doesn't have to be guidance. It could be something like what you said.
How do
right?
you feel? Is there a certain time of the day that's better to set aside and get quiet and write in your journal, or?
Well, in her case, she has a child.
Right.
So the first thing in the morning in her life is her child.
Right.
He wakes up and he might need some food and stuff. Okay, so that kind of messes that up. But whenever, like, say you have a quiet moment, your child is taking a nap, or they're at school, or whatever time of the day you just connect with, that just seems to be, your time, even if it's just 15 minutes. Give it to yourself and have this journal right here. Have it with you. You're going to find that you use this journal, like I'm telling you, that the best way, the highest and best use of this journal, you'll have it tethered to you. You get in the car, you'll bring it with you. You're at the store, you're shopping, whatever, and you'll just open it up and go, oh my God, I know I'm going to forget that. I know that is the coolest thing that just came through. Boo. I'm just going to write it in. Done. Have it. Put it in the side door of the car. Have it right there. All right?
That's probably why most people print it out in the smaller size.
Yeah, this is the mini binder.
Mini binder.
Okay, the full binder just lets you print it out on the printer in 8.5 by 11 standard size paper. I took 8.5 by 11, printed these out, and took them and put them landscape and cut them in the middle. You'll see where I have the jot lines on the pages on your PDFs to cut them. And then you just, you put them in order, because I have the pages numbered. You put them in, and then you put them in a hole punch, and there you go. You're off and running. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the little one because it does fit in the door of the car.
It's great.
Or it'll fit in a woman's purse.
Mm-hmm. Sandra, by the way, your child, I don't know how old your child is.
She has 2 kids.
Oh, she has 2.
I think so. I don't know. I think so.
Okay. I don't know how old they are. But you can, once you work through this yourself, if you're really dedicated to working on this, you give yourself a couple months to work on this and really work it out, all right? Get in there and do part 2, and then get into part 3. You can start using this little journal to help them speak their truth right now, so they don't have to become an adult and go back and remember it all right? And you may not like everything that they say, but the truth is the truth, and that's how they see it. When they say it the way that they do, remember that they're not saying it completely from clarity. They're saying it mucked up in this world too. Uncle Joe, he was mean to me. He's taken on some of this. He drank some of the Kool-Aid, all right? He's in this world, so he took on some of this nonsense that's not to his highest or their highest and best use and good in this world. And you've got to help them by saying, okay, now what really is going on? Give Uncle Joe a break, all right? Yeah, he can do some of that stuff, but what's going on with that? Why did he do that? Why did you act that way? Why did you respond that way? What, did you just assume that? Where did you come up with that? That's where you get them back to their dysfunction, where they forgot who they are, right? Where they want everyone to be happy. They love everyone, remember? They didn't acclimate to this world yet before that happened. That fresh, new person, okay, that came in without any of this, getting caught up in any of this, all right? So you catch them before they get too far off track. You help them in that way. That is where you could be their guide. But you really are their parent, and you really are offering guidance, and it's always up to them to want that information, okay? They may not want it. You may find that one of your children love it, and the other one just goes, well, I'm not interested in it. That could happen.
She has 3 kids. A boy 8, a girl 12, and a boy 16.
Wow. You know,
That's another 3 jobs.
you're going to love this journal. Part 2, you're going to see where that 16-year-old is. What's the next
12.
And the 12-year-old is
12-year-old girl and an 8-year-old boy.
oh man.
You're going to see yourself in them.
You are at a prime time to do this work, because you see this going on around you. You are remembering yourself just by the fact that this is going on around you, and these are your children. And now you have the tool to lay it down.
And to understand it finally.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
Okay, so next week, same place, same time.
You can always listen to the videos replay on our blog post, lindadeir.com. You go to the blog, and when you get on the blog page, underneath the categories on the right side, underneath there you'll see My Guided Journey. And that's where all these video archives are for you guys to refer back to, so you can always get there, all right? Next week, we have a surprise.
Oh, we have a surprise guest next week.
We have a
can't
surprise.
tell you.
Okay, so watch this, you guys. Come over here, Ray.
Hi, I'm Linda Deir.
Now this is Ray. Huh? You finally get to see
They
Ray.
get to see the talent behind the camera.
Well, Ray is going to talk about his perspective on the interviewing in page 1 through 18, part 2 of My Guided Journey. And he's going to talk about his perspective on that, and then I'm going to interview him.
Ooh,
Okay,
that sounds exciting.
That's next Thursday, and we're doing that as a summary wrap-up of this.
Yeah, some of the things we'll talk about is what it triggered in me going through these weekly sessions. I mean, it triggered stuff in me because these are all things I'd never thought about before you wrote the journal.
Take your glasses off.
Take my glasses off?
And look up there.
Oh, there I am.
He's not used to this.
There I am.
See that? And there you are, Ray.
So, I mean, I went through a lot of the things that everybody out there is going through.
Yeah. In other words, the way you felt about it when you did the interviewing me from the perspective
Right.
of living it, okay? You come from more like from the people who, grab the journal, who are living it now.
Right. I had more of a traditional upbringing, very religious, teach you how to think, tell you what to do, what you can think, what you can't think, what you can do, what you can't do. And if you don't do that, then there's consequences all the time. So hopefully I've gone through these last 18 weeks feeling the same way that you all felt when you joined us.
Yeah. So Ray's going to be speaking on your behalf as far as what you'll really be able to relate to what he's talking about.
Okay.
All right.
Are you ready to wrap this up?
We're ready to wrap it
Hop
up.
back in the hot seat here.
This is the first time that Ray sat here. How did that feel, Ray?
Oh, that was very stressful.
See that? All right, you guys, next week, same place, same time. So we'll see you then, and it's going to be different next week. So I hope you guys enjoy that. I've written a series of videos in support of the readers of My Guided Journey, the companion journal to my flagship book, Guided. Each week on Facebook Live, I talk about your journey back to the beginning when you first made contact with your spirit guides and angels. They haven't gone anywhere, even when you ignored them or didn't realize they were there. In these Thursday Facebook Live videos with me, you learn how to journal your hidden knowledge, documenting your life journey, revealing who you really are and why you are here. When you follow this, you not only get your life back, but you will never doubt yourself again. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.